Anywhere. How you doing, Phoenix Comicon? So who do you call when you need someone to protect your ship, swing a bat'leth, or maybe even punch a Borg? I can only think of one man, and he's sitting right here. So we're going to be throwing out to you guys to ask some questions very soon. We have a microphone right here. If there's anything you would like to ask, please come up to the microphone, line up, and you'll get to ask your questions to Mr. Dorn. So I'll ask us a question or two to get us started.
Okay.
That's not on.
Bastards. Testing one, two.
Can you hear that?
Testing. Oh, there you go. Hello. Yeah, there you go. Very good.
I accidentally gave you the trick mic, sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's always a nice joke to, you know, like, hey, try this, Mr. Dorn.
So your character of Worf apparently was a fairly last-minute decision, a last-minute addition.
Yeah, it wasn't even fairly last minute. It was really last minute. I had called, because I heard they were doing a new Star Trek TV show, and I had called my managers and agents and said, hey, look, you know, I'd really like to read for this thing. And the casting director knew me, and so it was one of those things where they said, you know, we're really sorry, but it's already cast. If we have anything for you later, we'll give you a call. And that usually means, yeah, we'll see you later. And so, and that was it. And then 2 weeks later, I get a call. My manager called and said, oh, Michael, they want to see you for the role of a Klingon. And my manager said, what's a Klingon? And I started to describe it. And I went, that's okay. I know what it is. Because I was a big fan of the original show. And so I really knew what they wanted. And that was it. So, and it's amazing. I just described this, and it's just amazing to describe it. I don't think about it often, but the regular cast with Denise Crosby and Will Wheaton still there, they didn't know who I was. I didn't get an introduction. They didn't say, everybody, hi, this is Michael Dorn. He's going to be joining you, you know. I just showed up. And they were going, I'm sure they were going, who is this joker? You know, because there's a Klingon, you know, and he's not somebody you can miss. And they stuck me right in there, like as a regular, very quickly. I mean, I went from the actual last audition where I got the job. They told me after the audition that I got the job. I had done 3 auditions. And I was in makeup that day, and not, you know, getting the makeup tests. And within about a week, I was working. So it was just crazy. So, but I liked every minute of I mean, I liked that sort of getting thrown into, you know, something, you know, like without a paddle. And so it was a lot of fun.
So having to develop that character kind of on the fly, you found that was a fun thing as an actor to have to do that?
Well, 2 things happened. I actually snuck on the set as Michael Dorn, and of course nobody knew who I was. And I was just sitting there watching before I started working, and everybody was so, you know, wonderful. You know, like they were laughing. I mean, their characters. Let's go out in space and conquer and discover, and we're friends, and oh, this is my friend, and Brent's my friend, and Data and Geordi, and they're all like happy, you know. And I said, and I just was like pissed. I mean, I made the character like mad at everything. Just to give it a little extra spice. You know, that's how it happened. And luckily, I went to Gene the first week or first couple of weeks and said, hey, what do you want from this character? And he said, you know, don't look at anything you've seen before. Don't go by anything. You just make the character your own. And to an actor, that, you know, that makes us want to salivate, because that's just the way we love to work. And so I just made him that way, and the writers took off from there. I mean, I barely said anything to them about anything. I mean, they just came up with all this stuff because he was so like, mad at everybody, and Klingons are the best and humans are weak and stupid, and so and it was great. It just kind of really turned his character into an interesting character to play, and I think for them it was an interesting character to write for.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to throw out to you guys now. First question.
Sorry? Oh.
No, I prefer you stay on the ground.
I'm sorry. I was asking about I Am Weasel, and did you find it more challenging or less challenging to work on that kind of a project than a live project?
At first it was more challenging.
Really?
Yeah, because it wasn't the work that was difficult, it was the people that you work with. I mean, they're fairly insane. And one of my dear friends who was Cow and Chicken and Red Guy and all that stuff, he played Baboon, this guy named Charlie Adler. And Charlie called me Olivia de Havilland. Because when I first started working with them, I was just like, oh my God, they're so unruly. Oh, how could anybody act like that? And because they were just wild. I mean, it was just this you wouldn't believe. I thought that Next Generation was wild. These guys were just pretty out of control. But they did fabulous work, and as time went on, I got out of control too. It's always good.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next.
Hey.
Thank you. I have more of a request rather than a question.
Is it lines or anything like that?
It is a line. Is that okay?
How did I know?
I can
You
throw
would
them
do-
out if you want.
Is it a line from Shakespeare? Because he loves that, probably.
Sadly, no. Could you please, it would be honored if you would
Please
deliver the...
hurry.
Sorry.
Ask
If you were any other
before
man,
I lose interest,
if you were any other man, I would kill you where you stand.
Oh God, If you were any other man, I would kill you where you stand. Hello. Oh, 1 second, I've got to do something really fast here. Okay. You can find yourselves on Twitter. I got my new account, aka Worf. Yes.
Yes, hi. I have a moment of truth question.
Oh wow.
What do you think the better show is, Star Trek The Next Generation or Star Trek Deep Space Nine?
Not even on the spot. They're two different shows, and I'd say why, because Next Generation was a wild and woolly show, because we were all out of our minds basically. I mean, it was laughter and fun, and we just did a bunch of interviews for the Blu-ray release of Next Generation, which should be fantastic. And we were able to revisit our feelings about that. And it was true. It's just there were such strong, distinct, and funny personalities. Everybody just had their, and every person you worked with was a different day. If you knew you were going to work with Marina, you're going to work with Marina Sirtis. And it was a whole set of shit that goes with that. She's not around, is she?
Let's hear earlier.
Rude. So it was, and once again, when I went over to Deep Space Nine, that was with the express purpose of boosting the ratings. And that to me was a challenge, because if I boost the ratings, then great, I'm a hero. If I don't, then, you know, then I'm an overpaid, you know, jerk. And so, that was a challenge. And it was a very different set when I went over there. The deep space was quiet and very serious. I mean, it was like, you know, like you're in the Vatican or something. And I love this bit, I'm sure you've heard it a million times, where I get over there, you know, I come from Next Generation, where we're singing, hey, how you doing, what's going on? I get over there and say, hey guys, it's like I'm going, hey, let's, you know, and they were just serious. But in about 6 months, I broke them of that. And they got to be a lot more loose and fun. And, but the question, let me answer your question. I love Next Generation. That I wouldn't change that for the world. But I love my work on Deep Space. I thought that was the best work that I had done. I love, like I said, there were some great episodes of Next Generation, but Deep Space was great. In fact, if you go on YouTube, they have somebody put together the greatest love story of all Star Trek, and they had Worf and Dax. And looking, yeah, you really got to see it. I didn't do this. This guy did a wonderful job. How did Marina know that I did this? I'm afraid to answer it. Hello? What was I saying?
So it sounds like you enjoyed the work that you did more in Deep Space Nine, but Next Generation was the show.
This guy put together this thing of the greatest love story on Deep Space Nine, and he has all of the Worf and Dax moments, which were many, 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 many. And I didn't know that until I saw this, and it's 8 parts that he's put, and they're about 7 minutes each. And it's Worf and Dax, Worf and Dax. And it just hit me then that I had done a lot of really good stuff on Deep Space. And so, and really took the character all over the place. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. So I mean, if I had to choose, I'd go back to Next Generation. Just because it was the most fun 7 years I've ever spent. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was wondering, how did you like playing the role as a Klingon, and if you were a different character, what would you pick?
If I was a different character, I love the Klingons, but I probably would do Patrick. I'd be the captain. Of course, I'd have to be taller. But I like the captain. I think that would have been a great role, just because it was such a cool role. I mean, when he started on Next Generation, it was something we hadn't seen before in Star Trek, which was a very cerebral, very sort of measured kind of guy, instead of Kirk, who, you know, was like the bully of the galaxy. I mean, seriously, I mean, you go back and you look over those old ones, he is ready to destroy planets at the drop of a hat. You know, if you don't return one guy, we're going to blow up your planet. And I mean it. You know, I mean, that's the way he is. And I mean, oh my God, oh, he'll do it, you know. And just, it was just crazy, you know. So, but that's a character I would do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi.
Hi, I'm Casey with Down the Road Show. I'm very curious about, out of all the roles you've done a lot of things that we get to geek out about at all these Comicons. What do you geek out about? What actor have you not worked with that you bump into at a Comic-Con that you're just like, holy cow, I just met?
You know, yeah, I love actors, but the one guy I actually had a chance to work with him was John Colicos, who played Dorn. And I was very fortunate to work with him. You know, that was fun. But I don't geek out at actors. I really geek out at test pilots. because I was lucky enough to be like a mascot for the Air Force and the Navy. So I got to go to Edwards Air Force Base and meet all these guys. And, you know, you run into them and you're just like, oh my God. You know, I mean, they're the real deal. And in fact, you know who Frank Borman is? Yeah. He was, went to the moon, president of Eastern Airlines and stuff like that. I mean, he's one of the guys. He's one of those guys. And I had an F-86 at one point and I was selling it. And my broker said, hey, Michael, Frank Borman wants to come look at your airplane. And I went, geek. I said, who? And he said, Frank Borman. I said, Frank Borman? Yes. Okay. And he showed up, flew in his airplane, and I'm showing Frank Borman the F-86. And that was like a moment. I wish I had a camera. That was like a moment. And then when he decided to buy it, he wanted me to come down to Chino in California where he was going to get it all fixed up and stuff. And so I went down there, and he wanted me to you know, show him some things that maybe are not on an old F-86, but on the new one. So I said, Frank, okay, now when you start the airplane, you know, you need to jockey the throttle a little bit so it doesn't get a rumble in the engine. And he goes, yeah, I kind of remember that. I said, good. Okay, next thing you know, when you do this, you know, that you have to make sure that your flaps are in there. He says, yeah, I think I remember that. And I go, oh, what a dope. I'm showing Frank Borman, you know, he's forgotten more than I've ever known. And I said, Frank, look, do me a favor. If you see anything you don't recognize, tell me, and I'll let you go. But I'm a geek about pilots. I really am.
Cool. Love your work at Castle, by the way.
Thank you very much. I love Castle, too. Rob Bowman is the producer of that, and Rob he directed a bunch of great episodes of Next Generation, and he went on to X-Files and directed the X-Files movie, and he also directed Rain of Fire, and he was there, and but it's such a cool thing. It's such a cool thing. I really like it a lot. Sexy lighting, you know, Fox that I'm talking to. Be better.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi.
Hi. Some of my favorite moments from Next Generation have to do with Worf dispensing romantic and dating advice to Geordi and Leslie. How much of that material was yours? And do you have any advice for the gentlemen of this generation?
None of that was mine. No. But advice, how old are you?
32.
Let me put it this way. You'll never know nothing, ever. It just, you'll get to a certain age and you'll realize, I know nothing about women. So the best advice is just to go with what you feel and let the chips fall where they may. And for you women out there, please give us a break. Just once, twice a year. Just give us a break, you know? Oh, God. It's just, it's funny. You know, I'm a single guy. I've been single all my life. And, you know, you get to the point, and I have fun with Marina and everybody, because they just go, you know, I just don't know anything. Get to the point where I said, Michael, what do you think she's thinking? I have no idea. Either she loves me, or she wants to set me on fire. Could be both. Just don't know. Hello.
Hi. I
She was
was
like,
just
yes,
wondering, out of all the characters you've played, which one's your favorite?
It's got to be Worf is my favorite. I played a bunch of characters, but I think Worf is probably the coolest character I've ever played. Yeah, he's. I'm thinking about, I don't know if they're ever going to let me do it, but I'm thinking about going to Paramount on my hands and knees and allowing them to do a small Star Trek movie, like a TV movie or something for cable, that stars Worf. Just, I don't. And just have him be just a heroic, you know what, so. Cool, yes.
I also love your work on Castle,
Thank you.
and I was wondering, are you really an uber bad guy and responsible for Kate's shooting? Because you come off as kind of very secretive and maybe underhanded, and are they going to expand your role into this uber bad guy?
No, actually, that's a psychiatrist. And they are, secretive and strange in their own way. But the last episode, I don't know if you guys saw the last episode, they actually, the funny thing is that she and I, you wouldn't believe it, but she would go so well with Next Generation because she and I are like almost in tears. She has me crying most of the time because I'm laughing so hard at what she's doing. And I think they saw a little bit of that while we were rehearsing. And they said, because there's one time I said, she goes, "Doctor, how can I do it?" And I said, "Well, I can help." Not the last episode, one before, I said, "Because I can help." And they said, "Cut." And she goes, "Are you trying to hit on me?" And I said, "Well, if you have to ask, I'm not doing a good job." So, and the last episode, they let us, she was doing some funny stuff, and they kept that in, and they asked me to do it, this one bit, where she says, "What should I do?" And I go, "What do you think you should do?" And they kept it in. I didn't think they were going to do it, but they kept it in, so we'll see.
Thank you.
But it's a blast, yeah, thank you.
Hi, Mr. Dorn. My name is Travis McDonald with the State Press. I'm wondering, prior to your role as Worf, what specific characters that you had played helped you create Worf? And since your role as Worf, how has that acting experience throughout your entire Star Trek career helped you with roles since?
Nothing before then. No acting job I had done prepared me for that. I took one of the most fantastic acting classes in LA, this guy named Brian Reese. And he basically opened up a lot of actors, but I'm one of them that he opened up in terms of learning not how to act, but how to get the job. And that's one of the things that he was teaching. And he's the one that opened it up. In fact, one of the things he did, I had a mustache for many, many years. And I was married to that mustache. And he said, "Michael, you gotta shave that thing off. Are you out of your mind?" And it was true. When I shaved it off, it was like basically you were naked, because there was nothing. You're not going, "Hi, I'm the Black Tom Selleck," "Hello, I'm Michael Dorn, and this is my mustache." So you're basically, and so that was the big thing. And working on the show, and I said this in one of our interviews like recently, is that working with these actors, as much as we laughed and talked, these were seriously strong actors. Not just, kind of. They were seriously strong actors. And you learn about how to work and how to navigate, in these roles. And it's nothing beats experience, so I took that with me wherever I go.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, Mr. Dorn.
Hello.
A lot of folks here probably don't realize just how accomplished you are as a pilot. You've flown with the Blue Angels.
And the Thunderbirds.
And the Thunderbirds. That's just amazing.
Yeah.
So my question for you,
it's so cool.
I want to give you a question that just really lets you enjoy the next few moments. What is it? What is the one experience you've had in a plane that you wouldn't trade for anything in the world? Something so unique that you experienced in a plane?
Oh, easy. I actually went on an aircraft carrier in an F-18 Hornet and did maneuvers where you did cat shots and traps like they show on the movies and stuff like that. Wow. We did 4. I left from Central California, Lemoore, and flew down off the coast of San Diego, which was a long trip. And it truly is what they say. You're flying along, you're over the ocean, and he says, at your, let's see what it was, at your 9 o'clock, there's the boat. It's a thing up there. And you go, and it's just like a movie, you know, just like what you see on television. And you go, we're going to land on that. Sure enough, they get us in the marshalling area, and we come down and we land, and we're coming in, and I'm cool. I'm like cool. I got my glasses, my helmet, my oxygen mask, and I'm cool there. And we come in to land, and you're going 170 miles an hour. And so things are happening very quickly. You come in to land, and you see the superstructure that sticks up on the boat. You see it go by like that. And you go, holy shit, they gotta stop soon. like real soon, before you can say, holy, they have to, you're stopped. And it is like everything is still going forward. And I'm like this, finally it comes back, and you know, my glasses are like this. And we did that 4 times, and which was amazing. The pilot I was with, Brian Grant, said, "Hey, Michael, I know I yell when he does the shot," and so we're both yelling. And we got out of the airplane, had lunch, jumped back in it, and he says, "Okay, Michael, you have a choice. We can leave now, or we can stay around for night carrier operations." I said, "No." And a funny story, on the way down there, which was it was a pretty good trip down there from Lemoore. I was flying, because he let me fly from the backseat. I'm flying, and I'm like all over the sky, because I'm having a good time. You know, I'm going fast. And he says, "Michael, you can't do that. You have to like fly straight, because they're watching me. You know, if you're all over this, they're going to say like this pilot's drunk." So we get there, and just before we land, you know, on the boat, he takes over. So we go through the whole thing, and then we're on our way back, because we had to go back to Central California. And he says, "Okay, you got the airplane," and I'm flying, and I'm holding speed and altitude like a professional. And I'm just, man, I am good. And I'm like, yeah, you know, it's cool. And I start going like this, and nothing's, the airplane's not going. I said, "Brian, what have you done?" He goes, "I just couldn't take it anymore." And he took the controls off. There's a switch. It totally blocks out the back controls. And I'm flying for like an hour. But that was, after that, I don't care what I did. After that, it was just sort of like, everything else was nothing compared to that. That was incredible, spectacular. Another funny story is I was supposed to, I did one ride with the Blue Angels early, and they only give you 1 ride per person. And so I did a couple of videos for them, you know, their promotional videos. You know, I did the voiceovers. And the last one they said, "Hey, look, you know, we want to give you, you know, another ride." I said, "No, I've already had my ride." They said, "No, information. So we're going to do information with the whole routine." And I went, oh. And so I went down to Miramar, and I got bumped by an admiral. They said, "Don't worry, we got another ride for you." Okay. Then I went to Point Magoo, just north of LA, and Point Magoo is famous for bad weather. And so they couldn't do the show. They said, "Sorry, Michael, we're doing a low show. We can't, you know, okay. But we did, don't worry." Then I went to Oakland, and this is the time I went into the briefing that they do. I don't know if you've ever seen that, where they sit with their eyes closed, and they go through the whole routine with their eyes closed before they go out to the jets. And I'm sitting there, so cool, flight suit, the whole thing. And then they say, "Okay, now we go out to the airplane." I jump in the airplane, canopy comes down, and I'm just, you know, you can see me, I'm just like, the airplane brakes. I mean, literally brakes. I mean, before we started, you hear the controls that talk to you. They say, "Aileron, right, aileron." And the guys are taking out these black boxes, putting in all that stuff and trying to fix it. Nothing worked. And the guy said, Michael, I'm sorry, I got bad news. I got good news and bad news. Good news is we have another airplane. Bad news is you can't come with me. Canopy comes up and I get out. Then, to make things worse, one of the little sailors who's working there says, well, Michael, we have your video from the flight. And if you watch the video, I get in the airplane, canopy comes down, canopy comes up, and I get out of the airplane. So it was a beautiful time. But let me tell you something, the best part is meeting all the kids that are working out there. I mean, these kids are 18 and 19 years old and they're working 14 hours a day. Really hard work, so that was always good. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know,
enjoy your time in Phoenix.
Thank you. You notice how I love airplanes, so.
Great question.
Yes.
In the science fiction genre, have you ever got to play a human, or were you always an alien?
I think of the genre. No, I played humans in there. I mean, I played a general and I played those, but
oh, which shows? I'm sorry.
There's one called Descent that I played. There's one Outer Limits where I played a human at first that turned into a monster.
I figured that he was infected through the whole thing.
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah.
He was infected at first, but then he became infected and turned into a monster. But no, my stuff has usually been, you know, I play generals and kind of straight-laced guys who are telling people, you know, we can't do that. It's against the war. It's against the rules, you know.
You must have to find that.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, dude.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. You'd already told us about Captain Kirk and that he's a bully.
Yes.
What was it like being his lawyer in an undiscovered country? Different Worf, but...
Yeah, I wasn't very good, was I?
And honestly, my question is, what was it like to work with Shatner and
Oh, that was...
D. Kelly?
Well, I love the, although I never went to the conventions, but I love the original guys. Right. And that was fantastic. DeForest was funny. He was very funny. And I love working with Christopher Plummer. Fantastic. But, and in fact, Dee said that, you know, after they got sentenced to death and whatever, they grew up in there, whatever it is, you know, I was walking by where they were standing, he goes, hey, why don't you give me your card? I'd like to, you know, I'd like to recommend you to some friends of mine. He was on me that whole, but it was very fun.
Yeah, I got to meet him several times.
Yeah, and then at the last day that I worked, all the characters were there one day, and the guest stars were sitting on one side and they were sitting on the other side, and that was one of those moments where you see.
I thought they missed a golden opportunity by not having you show up in Generations with Kirk and be like, hey.
Yeah, no, they had a lot to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Cool.
I can speed up. So I've asked this question of a lot of different actors I've met at the various cons that I've gone to. And you were talking about how on Next Generation, it's a very funny show. You guys always were laughing, joking, having a great time. I think that's terrific. I think we all would like to have an experience like that. But we as viewers, we always get the end product, right? After all the scenes are shot and the takes are taken and it's edited, and then we get it, right? So when you watch it, I'm guessing that you watched it, do you watch it from an objective viewer standpoint like we do, or is your viewing experience tainted by the fact that, oh man, right after this scene, you know, I went and Will Wheaton tripped down the stairs to his trailer and that was so funny, and that kind of ruins the scene for you a little bit. You know, I don't know if that really happened, but I was just curious how the viewing experience for you is different versus what we see.
Not much. I mean, there was so much going on that it was very difficult to remember those moments. I mean, the only thing that I remember clearly, or that was something that I see whenever I see it, is whenever Jonathan and Patrick would be at the front view screen, and they do their things, and whatever they're talking to, some bloody aliens, and they turn around and walk back to their chairs. I'm facing them. and Patrick and Jonathan are always making faces at me. It was a little unfair because, I mean, Patrick especially, as serious as you think he is, he was the ringleader. And I have to like be just looking at them. And they come back and, you know, and they're making faces out and they turn around and they're serious. And I'm always, you know, whispering to them, you know, say, I'm gonna kill you guys. I swear to God, I'm gonna sneak in your room and I'm gonna kill you in your sleep. And you know, those are the things that you remember because it happened all the time. Patrick would always run and jump and, you know, I don't know, he always wanted to fight me for some reason. Yeah, yes, Michael, I took golden gloves, I could tear you apart, you know.
But overall, you enjoy it as much as we do.
Yes, yeah, you know, and but it's kind of interesting. It's going to be interesting watching the new Blu-ray release, the DVDs. I mean, what you see it now, I'm afraid it looks a little bit like the original show. I mean, they didn't have even between us and Deep Space, you know, or not Deep Space, but Enterprise. I mean, they had all these beautiful monitors around and stuff like that, and we were, you know.
TV screens behind the Lexan, right?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But you know, but like I said, I love the original because of the stories and stuff. So
thank you very much.
You're welcome, dude. Hi.
Hello. Two things.
Yes.
One, because Marina told us one of us to do this earlier. Hi, Dorny. And second thing. I know you're on Castle right now. There's a lot of really great television going on right now and everything like that. If you had the option of being on any of the current television lineups, like Walking Dead or Game of Thrones or something like that, which one would you pick, and would you want to be a hero or a villain?
You know, I gotta tell you, the show that I love to watch, and I'm sorry it's not from this country, but the PBS show, BBC, called Doc Martin. I just think that is seriously a laugh out loud show. I mean, he's kind of like Worf. Seriously, he's like, Sid, would you like to come? No. Joe, what about this? No. Yes. Don't you think I look pretty? Yes. So, but I think there hasn't been a show in a long time that I just was kind of like going, wow, I'd really love to do that. It's been a while.
For some reason, I always wanted to see you on Walking Dead. I always imagined that you'd be awesome on there, like the governor.
Yeah, well. Hello.
Hello, my name is David.
Hello, David.
The United Federation of Phoenix Star Trek Club. Just a quick question for you, going back to Next Generation. When you first started your first season and you got into the character of Worf, how hard was it to learn Klingon? And I understand out there's actual schools that teach that language now, so they have a structure to it.
Can you believe that? Yes, it wasn't difficult to learn Klingon, but it definitely had a thing where I thought I was going to be learning more of it. I thought I really had to learn, but it's just one of those things like with anything. You open the script and there it is, and you learn it, and after you learn it, it's gone. And so there's only a couple of things like Nook Neck, was Klingon and Parmakai and those type of things, Tai Wee On, but there's just things that kind of stand out. I just didn't really have after a while, you're just basically trying to learn the lines.
It's probably like the technobabble the engineers have.
Yeah, exactly.
They spout it out and then forget it.
But they do have, I got invited to Klingon language camp one year. And I declined. But but they do have things like that out there. Hi.
Is
there any chance that you might make a guest appearance on The Big Bang Theory?
I would have said, I think not. Just because only because I think that they kind of mined that particular story to the, especially since Brent's been on there also. I mean, I thought when they first had Will on, they should have, what they should have done, or what I would have loved to have been part of, is that if they hired me to like beat up Will or something. It's Worf, we'll have to beat him up, yes. And I get there and I go, hey Will, how you doing? I love you, man. You know, and they go, oh my God, I wasted my money on you. You're not Worf. But yeah, no, I think they've mined that to where it's going to be. Also, I want to ask you guys something as a favor. I wrote a movie a long time ago with my friend Anne Marie Johnson, and it is a romantic comedy. And I wrote it for a lot of reasons. I wrote it because people said I should do it, and because they read the little treatments and they thought it was really good. And when I wrote it, I really liked it, and I've been getting a lot of press and a lot of people saying, "Hey, this is really good." And the one thing that they always asked me was, when I go to these meetings with these producers and execs, they say, "Well, Michael, we really understand that you have a following, but will the Star Trek fans come out and watch something that isn't Star Trek?" And from what I've heard and people told me, I said, yeah, of course they will. It's one of those things where, I get this thing, well, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do lately? And so, and one of the things we're going to do is that we're going to go I'm on Twitter and I'm doing that, and we're going to go on Kickstarter, and we're going to try to see if the fans will come out and support us. It's going to be, Marina's going to play in it, Nana Visitor, Armin Shimmerman, who played Quark, and also his wife Kitty, Bob Pine, who I was on Chips with, who's the father of Chris Pine, who I remember as a baby. And so I just want to make everybody aware, and that if it comes to your theater and stuff like that, to come out and support it, because I think what it's really going to show is that our fan base that I know, that they don't realize, that the business doesn't realize, which is the strangest thing in the world, because you guys have made Paramount Studios like over $1 billion. But to them, it's not real money. It's green, it spins, but it's not real. I go, what are you talking about? So we love, you're going to be hearing about it, you're going to see it and stuff like that. I love you to come out and support it and show these bastards. So these stuffed shirts, what we're all about. I'm sorry, whoa, hey, take it easy, what? The title is called Through the Fire. And it's, like I said, the theme is, even old black people need love. That's my line. So anyway, I just wanted to park that on you guys.
Very nice. We have a little more time for questions if there's anybody else who has something they want to ask. In the meantime, I'll ask you a question. Give you guys time to get up there.
Sure.
I was always curious about the Worf voice, if that kind of evolved as you thought about and developed the character, or did you go in knowing you wanted a different voice for the character?
No, the Worf voice was like the first 2 episodes, I think. The Worf voice, if you go back and watch it, the Worf voice was like this. Just very, it wasn't even gruff or so, just. And Gene came to me and said, look, we really need to do something about your voice. Because it's a little too, American. And so I go, okay, and so we sat down, I can't remember exactly, but I know that I came to him a couple of times with different ideas. And I went through 3 or 4 different voices and finally came up with this English, gruff, very stilted kind of, voice. And he said, that's it. And that's where we started. And luckily, you know, my voice was low enough and I was able to do it, so we didn't have to, you know, do anything to it. So, yes, hi.
Hi. The show ended up using your character as the mechanism for explaining things to the audience.
Mhm.
And subsequent viewings of the show, it ended up coming off as, you know, Worf was the dumb one, and I thought that was always unfair. Whose decision was that? Were you aware of that, or was that something that came out after?
If there's another video on YouTube where this guy has put a compilation of Worf suggesting things and getting shot down every time. The funny thing I like about it is I'm always called Sir. That's what I was, Sir, I think we should, Sir, no, Mr. Worf, stupid Klingon. But it was, you know, I do know that there was a thing where we were in these script meetings, the first year we had script meetings, and Jonathan Frakes was just like, he was really upset about this one script because it was so obvious. And he said, okay, I'm not going to answer the question until we get, and he said, God, this is so obvious, even big, dumb, stupid Worf could see that. And so they start calling me big, dumb, stupid Worf. But the funny thing is that, you know, and I don't care, I mean, it's just a character, you know, but it was very funny. Even I kind of laughed and went, hey! But I don't think it was a conscious thing. I think it was just one of those things where they had to have somebody in the group say something that goes contrary to what they're going to do, so that they can look like, no, we have to do it this way, no matter how it turns out. But that was it. I mean, but it wasn't. I don't think they were conscious. Hey, let's make him stupid.
There wasn't any thought behind making the Klingon seem less of a bad guy somehow?
Less bad guy. Gene got tired of people asking him about Klingons. And because when they came out with the new show, with the Next Generation, they were very, well, who's going to be the Klingons? What are the Klingons? Blah, 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 blah. You know, are the Klingons still going to be the enemy? Are they going to be the bad guys? And so he said, you know, he wanted to make it clear, and smartly, I think he did, is that he said, you know, things change. You know, you can't be enemies forever. And of course not. And so that's what it was. I mean, I think that what they did, what I loved, is that they made them real sort of Shakespearean and epic in who they are. And they hired these actors. I mean, everybody, these big guys in terms of their acting. You know, like Gowron, you know, and all that. I mean, it was just amazing. JG is fantastic as Martok. I mean, we just had such great times. And I think it was just that's what they took. So they turned them from these kind of wild, out of control, kind of stupid, into these Shakespearean actors, you know, or the Shakespearean characters, which I thought was fantastic. Ron Moore is definitely responsible for that. I mean, he wrote some stuff that's just, once again, classic in its approach. So, yes, bye.
In regards to J.J. Abrams' new Star Trek that's coming out, are you going to reprise your role, or did he reach out to you to reprise your role as a Klingon or as another character?
Interesting, that's a good question. I got a call at the beginning of the year, no, at the end of last year, December, saying that that J.J. or the casting director called from the new Star Trek movie and said, would you be interested in a part?
And?
I said, yeah, sure. And, but they changed their mind. It wasn't Worf, it was a guy, just some guy, I think, you know. And I thought it would have been cool, but they changed their mind. They said, no, we're not going to go that direction because, you know, we just, you know, we want to keep the two things separate.
Thank you.
And I said, Spock. Yes.
Hey, a while ago you mentioned your F-86 that you would own, and I remember watching a documentary a few years ago that was, I can't remember if you just purchased or were selling a Sabre liner, and talking about your love of aviation things. I was just wondering if you still owned aircraft, and what was your favorite past or present?
I still own, I'll answer that. In fact, I'm just in the process today of acquiring another airplane. Don't tell my mother. Poor thing. But it's a twin-engine Cessna. It's a little slower than an F-86, but it's just something to keep me flying until I get my next series and I can buy something bigger and faster. But the F-86 was my absolute favorite. It was utterly, you had to work at screwing up. You really had to work hard at really screwing it up. It had no bad qualities. If you're upside down and you're running out of airspeed, the thing will just go, and you just, well. In fact, I thought I was Chuck Yeager one time when, I won't tell you why it happened, because that's embarrassing, but the engine quit while I was over Palmdale, which is right near Edwards Air Force Base. The engine quit at about, I don't know, 15,000 feet, and you're out there in the middle of the desert, and you got to find some place to land. And one of the trainings that these guys taught me was how to dead stick it in, which is landing without engine or nothing like that. And so lost an engine, and it's funny how if a car or an airplane or a boat, whenever there's something wrong, it turns into a woman. And I only say that because you go, oh baby, please don't do this to me. I swear to you, sweetheart, I'll treat you good, I won't you. You start talking to it. Oh man, sweetheart, you're the best. I love you, And I landed, in Palmdale. Flaps, everything landed, smooth landing, no engine, no nothing like that. Pulled off the runway. And I said, yeah. But that was probably the best flying airplane. The worst is an airplane called an MU-2, Mitsubishi. And it's big engines, little tiny wings. It's not a warbird. It's a new airplane. And that thing was just scary to fly. I mean, you just couldn't look away or something would happen. It was so scary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for these last two questions here.
Are you going to put that thing down?
No. You can ask anyone on my staff. I sleep with this thing. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, I know.
The way these crowds go sometimes, everybody take that the wrong way.
Okay.
I'm dying to know, what Shakespearean plays would you love to see made in space?
Made in space? Actually, I just did a little movie. It was an urban Henry IV Part 2. Because if you ever get a chance to read it, it's just pretty scary that back in the Shakespeare time, he was talking about politics the way politics are now. I mean, it's so, there's this one thing I was playing Henry for, and there was this one, I'll paraphrase it, basically he was saying to his son, who's going to inherit the throne, said, look, when things get really bad here at home, and they're looking at you because you're doing some really stupid things, start a war someplace else, preferably in the Middle East. And I swear to you, I read that and I went, oh my God. And this is a guy in the 16th century that wrote this. Wow. So it's pretty frightening. But I'd love to do that. In fact, I think it should be. One of the things I wanted to do was do this Worf as a Shakespearean play, and with our present overtones, which would be great.
By the way, you're live on downtheroadshow.com right now, so
I don't
say hi to them.
Hi. I just wanted to know what your favorite plane was, because...
My favorite?
Plane.
My favorite plane?
If you could fly anything, what would you fly?
F-16. Yeah. I flew that 4 times. I flew it with the Thunderbirds, with the Okies, and with the Fresno Air National Guard. And that was, I kept screaming at the pilots, you know, you guys get paid for doing this, and we're paying them to have this much fun. It was a lot of work, but it was a blast. That was my favorite.
Thank you.
One of the other things I flew was a B-1 bomber.
I would love to.
I got in the airplane, they said, oh, we're going to take you for a ride. So I went to the training and all this, and I get in the airplane, and the guy goes, I said, where are you going? Want me to sit in the back someplace? He goes, no, the captain's, or the pilot's seat. And I went, what? So I jumped in the pilot's seat, we bombed around, you know, the Midwest at 600 miles an hour, like 50 feet off the ground. Very cool.
We are at our time limit, unfortunately. We want to thank Michael Dorn for being here.
One last thing I just want to say, I know Marina gets all teary and she feels all this thing, but I'd like to reiterate that, you know, the fans, it's unbelievable that you guys are still out here like this. And it's amazing. This is our 25th anniversary this year, and the crowds are just amazing. And I want to thank you guys for supporting us all these years, and you're the best. There aren't any better fans around. So thank you very much.